Welcome to the UI experience. Welcome to the UI experience.
Good afternoon, UI, and all you out there in web listening land. This is yours truly, Jalal Tariq, otherwise known as Ghost in the Machine, here with the UI Daily Show number 24 on this, what is the date? September the 22nd, 2014. I want to thank everybody for joining in and everybody for listening, and hopefully you'll contribute. In case you didn't know, we have our chat room that's open online. So if you go to freeconferencecall.com/wall/UI, you'll be able to pose your questions, your comments. Tell me I'm talking too loud. Tell me I'm talking too much. Do what you want to do, but you can do it in the chat room. You can also listen in and not contribute to it, just if you just want to listen, by calling our playback number at 712-775-7029. That's 712-775-7029. So if you know somebody who you think might gain something from the things that we talk about on our show, or you just want to say, hey, man, get on here, man, these dudes is crazy, you can also give them that playback number and, hip them to the site. Send them our way. Now, as we begin every show, we also want everyone to know that although the revolution may not be televised, it must be funded. So UI is doing its membership drive at the present time, and I wish UI Jane was here so she can put her thing in, but she hasn't hit me back yet, so she'll show up probably later on. But you can go to urbanintellectuals.com/members if you want to become a member of the site. The charge is currently at $24 a year. That's $2 a month, and most of us, we basically can take $2 and just throw it out the car window as we driving along the streets. That's what we waste every day. So, $2 a month is virtually nothing to become a card-carrying member of Urban Intellectuals. And one day, I'm going to have Renegade come on here one day and basically give us a lowdown on what you get for your joining this site. And because there are perks that you get, certain discounts that you get, and if you look at Urban Intellectual, she posts a lot of things that's, telling people what they can and what they can't get. So there's also the option, if you would like to just donate money to the cause, you can go to urbanintellectuals.com/donate and, give to your heart's desire. If you want to do like church and tithe, if you want to give a third of your income or half of your income, like some of the billionaires out there, that's fine too. We'll take any kind of money, But in any event, today I'm joined on my show by my partners in crime, Patrick Irvin and Terry Banks. Say hello to the people, my brothers.
What is going on, brothers and sisters of UI and those who are listening all around the internet and across the world? How's everyone doing?
What's good?
I think we got somebody else. Is that you, David? Is you on the line too? Or are you just listening today?
Dominique?
I am just listening.
Yeah, I recognize that. I think Dominique's number is something different. I don't think it's 214. I think it's another area code.
You got an 832 number. I know that.
Yeah. But in any event, topic number one, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know how many people had the opportunity to read an open discussion. I think she put it in an open discussion. I know she put it in the podcast group about certain Democratic officials in the St. Louis area all banding together to show their displeasure with the Democratic Party and some of the planks of their platform not being designed to help, African Americans, black folks, whatever you want to call yourself this week. And my question that I was posing as I was reading the article is it time for us as forward-thinking, progressive-thinking people to investigate whether or not we should start our own party and basically break away from the Democratic Party and break away from the Republican Party, at least on the local level. We could care less about the feds because then you have to get other people involved. But when you have cities and municipalities where we predominate, why do we limit ourselves to just Democrats and just Republicans? And my thought was always that maybe it might be time for us to look at other alternatives. And you don't necessarily have to call yourself a libertarian. You can call yourself the Black Panther Party if you'd like. But whatever your platform is, as long as it's geared toward helping us as African Americans in that specific community, I don't think that you would go wrong with that. So I throw it out to the floor and see what you guys' thoughts is on it. Terry, you up first.
All right. Well, first I think we need to give background, of course, because when we put a subject out there, there's always going to be some people who simply aren't aware of what it is we're talking about. So let me fill them in first on what this issue is. This is about certain people in St. Louis right now, and we're hoping, of course, it goes all across the United States. But there are some black St. Louis politicians who reject the Democratic Party, and they feel that the party is being disrespectful in the way that it handles black people's issues. And so what they decided to do was to form their own party, and they want to call the party the Fannie Lou Hamer Coalition. And if anyone, most people should be aware of who Fannie Lou Hamer was, but she was a woman who was a major part of the civil rights movement back in the 1950s and 60s. And so what they're saying is they feel that they're being disrespected by the people who are making the decisions that affect their children. And they said that we've written letters, we've made phone calls, those calls have not been returned, and we're simply tired of the lack of respect. And so that's why they want to form this particular party. As for me, to answer the question directly, I think you are never wrong when you think that as a race of peoples, we need to band together to form our own political entity or our own political group. The National Black Caucus seems to have been the original idea for that idea we're talking about, but sometimes they blend in and just start going along with the program as well. If we're going to do this, what would have to happen is we'd first have to have an agenda as to why we exist. What is it that we exist for? And moving forward, how are we going to organize ourselves throughout the country to really make a difference? Because if you just have one or two people in each city, making some noise and holding up a sign, that means nothing at all. But yes, we need to, because we are not being heard. No matter how many times we say there are issues that are directly related to our well-being, the other side, meaning the other race of people, simply they don't care because it's not them. It's not their issue. So what they're doing is dividing us, and they're saying that's your issue. We don't care about it, therefore we're not going to address it. We're not going to put any money into it. Let's just look at the educational system, for example, and the lack of resources that go into inner city schools versus the resources that go into suburban schools. That in and of itself shows you there are some political issues that are being decided that say where the money goes. And if there aren't enough black people that are able to be a part of that decision-making process, then guess where the money's going to go? To the other side, which is where it goes. So, yes, we absolutely need to form. But my fear in forming is that you're going to wind up having people that start to do the infighting thing of wanting to be in charge and, well, I'm in charge, it's my idea, and so on. So we would have to have open-minded people who are humble, who aren't seeking their own appraise or their own applause. They're not looking to try to become famous. They don't want to be the next Dr. King. They don't want to be the next Fannie Lou Hamer. They just want to truly have their voice be heard. That's what we would need if we were going to form our own party of some kind.
Good points. Good points. Patrick, what say you, my friend?
I agree with everything Terry just said. With specifics to the the Fannie Party. It seems like, and this is from reading their declarations on. It's in the right direction, but I think it's coming from the wrong source. And this, my personal opinion is, any changes that happen in Black America are going to happen from the ground up. They're going to happen from within the community, and not from the political class. When you read the the statements they've made on their websites, it becomes clear that they're not really a separate party from the Democratic Party. They're just black Democrats. So it begins to question a bunch of different things. For me, and this is just my personal opinion, I always feel like if black people are truly going to do anything to advance the black agenda, to advance black people in America, we're going to have to do it with outside-the-box thinking. We're going to have to, if we're going to create our own party, we need to create our own party, not another segment of a party that's already established, not a sub-segment of the Democratic Party, but a completely different and independent third-party choice for black Americans. So that's my only real question I have with this is it seems like you're still Democratic, but you're going to be Democrat. You're going to be like a subgroup of the Democrats. But I do think it's a step in the right direction. I'm always going to question politicians. I think they always should be questioned. Like I said, I think it's a step in the right direction. I just question the source. I question where it's coming from, and I question the end goal of it all, because you never want to see a situation or a circumstance be taken advantage of by either side, but it seems kind of like that are hoping to take advantage of the racial tensions to position themselves in places of power. Now, without having talking to any of these people, I can't say that, but by looking at the reluctance to completely separate themselves and a few other things that you can see if you go on to their FannieLouHammerClub.org and look at their declaration, there are just a couple things in there that really cause me to, question. Like, I have questions now. I want to talk to somebody.
Okay. And I agree wholeheartedly. That was one of my problems with it. We got some Doppler effects going on. But in any event, you've noticed if you just look at the party itself, and if you look at the statements that they have made both in the press as well as on their site, they were careful to let you know that we are not disrespecting the Democratic Party, because I think what they were trying to do is they're trying to play both sides of the streets. They're putting feelers out there to see what kind of support that they can get while still keeping their ties to the money that's going to come from the Democratic Party. I agree with you, Patrick. I don't believe that anybody that has ever held and or ran for public office is qualified to be a part of a separate party to challenge for an elected office. And let me tell you why. My thought has always been term limits, term limits, term limits. Nobody should have a lifetime job. That's ridiculous. And what ends up happening is that you'll get a person that after their 10th year in the particular position, now all of a sudden they are more concerned about keeping that seat than they are representing the people who sent them there. If I had a job where it paid me, I'm going to just throw a ballpark figure out there, $175,000 a year for life, and no matter what I do, I can just about get away with killing somebody before I can be thrown out of office. And then not only do I get free health care, not only do I get a housing allowance, not only do I have an allowance to be able to travel, when I retire, I still get my salary for the rest of my life. That's a job I'm not really trying to give up. Which means, and that's not even counting the little perks that they're going to get from businesses, corporations, lobbyists, junkets here and fact-finding missions to Tahiti and Hawaii and things like that. That's not even counting that. What I'm talking about is just straight salary, straight paid for what you supposedly do. I'm never trying to get that up, which means that the further away from my hometown or my constituents I am, the less their voice is starting to make it to my ear. That's the problem I have with politics right now. These individuals in St. Louis, I'm not questioning their heart. They probably have their hearts in the right spot. But like Patrick, I question the effectiveness of what they're trying to do. Because in my eyes, if you're going to be the Mary Lou Famer, whatever, if you are going to be a separate party, be a separate party. Cut ties with the Democrats, because most of us should know that take their suits off, there is very little difference between a Democrat and a Republican. They are mostly white, older white men, older, wealthy white men at that, which means that their view of life is always going to be different than yours, coming out the hood or coming out the projects or even coming out of some of these middle class neighborhoods. They don't think the same. And you can fool yourself all day long and say that, oh, yeah, they do, man. They people just like anybody else. They read, they do this, they do that. That's not exactly accurate, because if you judge by what they have done in the past, they've shown you that their particular goals are 100% totally divorced from your particular goals.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to jump in and say that you have a right to be concerned about their sincerity, because they made it clear. Their St. Louis council chairman, her name is Hazel Irby, she made it clear that this is not about being anti-Democrat. So that tells you right there they're not trying to distance themselves. Also, they called it a coalition. Therefore, again, they're not trying to distance themselves. Her statement is that we are not against the Democratic Party. They're against anyone who does things that are not in the best interest of our community. So, no, they're not trying to break away. They still want to stay tied to the party. What they're trying to say, and again, whether it's sincere or not has yet to be seen. But what they're saying is we just want to bring light to the fact that black people's needs are not being addressed in this community.
Right. You have anything to add to that?
Well, no, I mean, because basically what he just said was basically what we've been. He just basically cleared up what we've been saying for those that might not be aware of what we were talking about, because we just basically said if you go read their statements and declarations, and well, he basically just told you exactly what their statements and declarations say. And that's, to me, like I said, it's not enough to simply, like, if you guys are already in the political class, if you guys are already in that sphere, why do you feel the need or the urge to bring attention to the fact that our needs are not being met? Why not just start your own party and meet our needs? Like, why? And that's one of 100 different questions that I would have for somebody that would be willing to step in and answer those questions. Like, why take this approach? Why continue to be partnered up with a system that continues to ignore you and continues to only use you when it serves their purpose? Like, why not just break away completely, create your own political class? We know that the black vote can be overridden by multiple communities at this point, but still, having 20 plus million votes is still a pretty powerful thing. Why not work towards that and work towards gaining control and work towards actually being the voice of the black community directly, versus saying we're going to draw attention to the fact that nobody is listening to our needs in hopes that somebody will eventually get around to listening to them, so that we can go back into being what we were before and not have to stand out here on the limb, because we're really uncomfortable out here and we really don't want to be out here. That's what it says to me.
And I think and that's a good point. I think there's a certain amount of grandstanding, self-aggrandizement that goes on with a ploy, which I call a stunt like this. And that's maybe to drive more voters toward you at your next election. Maybe drive more, dollars into your own pocket. And like I said, I don't like to question the motives of people, but when you do things that I think are basically politically meaningless, I have to question your motives. And I look at it like this as well. The average black person in America knows that the Congressional Black Caucus exists, for example. How many people actually know what they do? What are you there for? You will stand out in front of the Capitol. How many of them is it? It's like 25 of them, 26 of them, something like that. No Republicans, all Democrats, and mostly in the House. Are there any black Democrats in the Senate? I have to look that up. That's going to be my research for today. But in any event, they stand out. They take pretty pictures, Maxine Waters gets on the mic, and, she can move a crowd. She'll move about 5,000-10,000 people. Not a big deal. You know what I mean? But in the end, they go back in. They go back to their office, and you don't hear from them again until something else comes up that they think that they want, or they want to perpetrate the fraud like this is something that my constituents want. So what you're telling me is that the people in Georgia and the people in Chicago want the same exact thing. That can't possibly be true because they live in two different environments, both politically as well as economically, educationally. Those are two separate areas. So their wants and needs can't possibly be the same. So, okay, we're going to bring all this together, and we're going to try and get it all together. We're going to get it in one big lump sum, and everybody's going to benefit of this. With the Congressional Black Caucus, we do this. What the hell have you done? I think they got a website, and you can go on there, and you can look at all of their accomplishments, and what laws that they have pushed for. Can't say that there are any laws that they have actually passed. They didn't put a few black people on stamps. They done named a few post offices after black folks, But substantive change for the entire African-American black community in America, what have they done?
Yeah, again, you're right. Here's the thing about it, piggybacking off of what Patrick said. If you're going to break away, there's several things that you have to consider before you can break away. Just as when we were kids, before we left mom and dad's house, we had to consider how we're going to eat, how we're going to pay our bills, where the hell we're going to live. So before these people can break away, they've got to consider something first. We have to have a plan first for what we're going to do. Mm-hmm. We have to know what our agenda is. What are we going to specifically be about? What is our mission statement? And then most importantly, what we mentioned earlier is funding. You're going to have millions and millions and millions of dollars to truly be an independent party. Because when the election time comes, if all you got access to is $1 million or two, you're not even going to get on the ballot. So they're not trying to break away here in St. Louis, and they've made that clear. This didn't come about until the Michael Brown shooting. However, St. Louis has been an urban, quote-unquote, ghetto-type city for years. They've had issues with the police for years. Black people have been denied their access for years. But yet just right now at this particular time, you come out with this coalition idea. Some of it is grandstanding because you're just now doing this in the wake of the Michael Brown shooting. So what we got to look at is if we decided that we want to become a powerful entity, 1, you have a plan, 2, you need an agenda, and 3, you clearly need funding. You're going to need some millionaires upon millionaires to want to commit to this idea. And that's where you got to start to really look at it and say, could we really hold our own if we did that? Because as much as we are a great peoples, black people are selfish when it comes to giving up their own money. I mean, very few of them want to go in their own bank account and take out some money and give it to another brother or sister. I don't know. Again, I'm not a psychiatrist at God. I'm not Jesus. I didn't walk on water, and I didn't raise Lazarus. So I don't know. But it's something very ugly in us as a people that doesn't want to help the next black person to have anything. So that's why I'm skeptical about whether or not we really could form that kind of a powerful party, because there's too much jealousy and there are too many people who will want their own name to then get to the top of the list. So what you would have is everybody will want to be the captain, but nobody will want to be the private. And the private's not going to take money out of his pocket and give it to the captain. The captain says, well, hey, I'm up here now in the suburbs, so I'm not taking any money and giving it to you. So the infighting is what my concern would be. Are we really able to organize as a people and put our own self-interest aside for the cause of the entire peoples as a whole? And I question whether we can do that.
Patrick?
I think he's right to question whether we can do that, and we can have a whole show on as to why black people behave that way towards other black people. I mean, you look at, even with the UI cause, if you look at some of the questions that have been asked of UI, I mean, you have people in there demanding to know what UI's EIN number is. And I'm thinking to myself, I've never in all my years ever seen anybody ask any other organization for their EIN number. Like, this is ridiculous. But it's a very real phenomenon that he speaks to, that we don't like to take orders. And, of course, that has its roots in times long past where black people were encouraged not to take orders from other black people. The only people you take orders from is a white person. And that carries forward to today, and it's still encouraged in a lot of ways today. Both in the community and from outside of the community. So like I said, we can have a whole show on that, but it doesn't change the fact, knowing the history is fine and it helps you move forward, but we deal with this issue today that says black people don't like to work together with other black people, and even when they do, there's always this issue of power. Who's going to control? Who's going to have control of the resources? Who's going to make decisions? Who's going to this? Who's going to that? Who's going to be out front? Who's going to be the face? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? Who's going to be in this role? And at the end of the day, everybody wants to be in some kind of leadership role, which is one of the reasons why I think it's become so popular for everybody to say, be your own leader. Well, that makes me feel good because now I can be a leader too, when the reality is there are different levels of leadership. To be a leader outside of your home, but that's again, those are whole other levels and depths that we can dig into when we start talking about this. But I mean, he's 100% on point when he says you have to question, with what we've been shown, our ability to unite and organize and deal with the infighting that would definitely come.
Well, I think it goes back, and like you said, that might be a topic for a show that we might do, if not on the daily show because of our limited time, but at least on maybe one of the nightly shows where we might talk about this dysfunction that we have amongst each other about trusting each other. And real short, I think that it's mostly because of how we've been acculturated in this country. In this country, we have been taught that black men are hustlers, the pimp in the hood or the con man, the armed robber, the burglar. We have been acculturated to think that every time that you donate money to somebody, they're going to steal your money. And there is a certain amount of truth to that particular myth, in that some of us have taken advantage of our communities around us or what have you. And some of these people are people who are held in high esteem by most of the black people in America. You see what I'm saying? But the thing about it is that I have a little bit more faith in our people. I think that the right impetus has not been shown to us to make us all band together. But I think that in times of crisis, I think that we can put all of our differences aside and come together, for the whole to move forward. I'm not so pessimistic about our people. I think it's just a situation where we've never been put in that position. And that being said, I want to move on to our second subject. There's also another article on UI concerning a public relations firm that's been hired by the city of Ferguson. And apparently this public relations firm, by all investigations, have been shown to have no minorities whatsoever. And they're supposedly there to rehabilitate the image of the Ferguson Police Department. And my question is it a good idea for us to create our own public relations firms? Not necessarily to influence the mind of Europeans. If it happens, it happens. You know, that's like the white people that want to join the struggle. You know, if you hear and you down for whatever, then come on. You know what I mean? Because we'll find out in a minute whether or not you're really down for whatever. And when we find out, you're going to be dealt with. But taking you at your word, come on. But in any event, do we need a public relations firm? Do we need a group of people, be it a corporation, be it a nonprofit, be it whatever, that can descend on some of these national issues? Take the water situation in Detroit, to come back and show a different spin on what is being reported in the mainstream media. What are y'all thoughts?
Let me jump on it first then. Of course we need them. If you look at Black Enterprise magazine, I did a little research before we got on the air, and they actually list the top 100 advertising agencies that are Black owned. So there are public relations firms that exist in America that are Black owned or African American owned, whichever politically correct term you want to use. There are ad agencies that target African American folks and our needs. So we exist. In this particular case, what happened was the city of Ferguson wanted to figure out how can we begin to save face and repair our reputation. So someone saw that and decided to contact them to say, hey, we would like to help you address those issues. And that happened to be a group called Common Ground. And the head of that group is a Caucasian lady named Denise Bentelli. And so when they decided to become a part of this, and Ferguson said, okay, yes, you can come on board and help us address these concerns, they posted their pictures. And what you saw was all white people. So, of course, people get immediately upset. Oh, my God, I mean, here we go again. See, this is why racism exists, and why are these people even helping, and they're all white and so on. So what she did, the CEO, Denise Bentel, did was took a proactive approach, and she immediately addressed that issue. And she issued a statement which said why they came on board, that they had no idea that, they didn't want it to be about Black versus white. So, first of all, their statement is here, and her statement is here. So let's do the follow-up first. We've already addressed the fact that we had this company that has all these white faces trying to address this issue. But her statement stated that their short-term goal was simply to assist, and that it had nothing to do with the preceding events, but they just simply felt they wanted to do something to be able to help. And when she saw the negative reaction online, and she saw the negative reaction on social media, especially among her fellow communications professionals that pointed to the lack of diversity on their staff, she then said, okay, I want to see if there's something I can do about it. So what she did, by the end of this turmoil and this conflict, she actually went out and hired a nationally certified Black group called the Devin James Group. And now they are working with St. Louis County, and they're working with the city of Ferguson, as well as with her group as an independent liaison to handle this public relations situation and then work toward the long-term needs with community leaders and so on. So she has already taken a proactive approach and addressed this. The city of Ferguson did not do it, which, again, is something we need to look at. But she herself, when she realized the heat that was coming on her group, she did this to say, hey, look, let me see if I can do something to counterbalance this attack. What were her motives? Were her motives pure? Don't know. I'm not in her head. But at least she did take one step towards saying, I'm not just going to be a part of this and have people attack my company as saying I'm a part of this problem. So she did something good in hiring the Devin James Group.
Patrick.
Well, and I hate being so negative, And we need to have a positive topic one day. I really dislike being so negative. But and my thing was I came into this from the back end because I saw in another group or somewhere or another, I saw somebody post a picture of Devin James, and the picture said, "This is the coon that's going to sell you out." Now, I thought the picture was interesting. I said, that's an interesting way to word a picture about a man without really giving any relevant information. So as I researched, I then backed into the whole story of the all-white people that had gotten hired out by Ferguson as the PR company. To answer the initial question, of course, black people need PR firms. We have some, but we don't have nearly enough. And when we could, we could have a discussion on the breakdown of black businesses in the marketplace, and we'll find that, we have businesses virtually everywhere with the exception of mining. We don't have any businesses in mining. But the breakdown, we don't have enough businesses in critical areas, and marketing and advertising is one of those critical areas where black people are underrepresented. And, I mean, you see it even when you talk to the average everyday black business owner like myself. My business is strategic consulting. Whenever I would go and talk to a black business owner and talk to them about their company and ask them for their marketing plan, they wouldn't have one more often than not. The few that had business plans, some would have business plans, even less would have strategic plans, and even less would have marketing plans. It's just the area of business we, for some reason, don't really think about in depth. We just think, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to put it there, and people are going to buy it. So when it comes to marketing and advertising, we definitely need, in my opinion, from what I've seen, we definitely need more people in that area. In regards to Devin James, if you go and look at his team as well, you see him, who is the CEO and the creative director. Then you see Mr. John Griffith, who is a white man. You see Amy Falk, who is a white woman. And then you see Amit Porwal, who looks to be Indian of some sort, Indian of some sort. And he's the IT guy. So even on the Devin James team, I still see non-black people. There's just a black guy that's a boss. And even going down the list with all the pictures they have available, Devin James seems to be the only black person. So, even in that, I begin to ask questions like, who is this guy? And if he's really down for the cause, why isn't there more black people on his staff? Like that, right. You can't sit here and tell me you couldn't find qualified black people to work in your firm. You couldn't find any qualified black people to be your senior event planner. You had to hire Christine Heckstedt. You couldn't find a senior web developer that was black. You had to hire Ruchika Shurana or whatever her name is. So these are the questions I have. And it's kind of like you see the Obama thing all over again. We put a black face on it, but behind it is still not black. So what's going on with that? But, like I said, I hate being negative. I want to believe that this guy is going to come in and do the right thing. I agree with Brother Terry when he says the city didn't do the right thing. And I think that speaks to the point that they really fail to grasp what black people are going through. They really think that they can just come in and make it okay, like they really don't understand the severity of what's happening right now. It's just a complete lack of understanding about white America, not altogether, but in large portion. There's a complete lack of understanding of white America to truly understand what is going on in the black community and what it's like to be a black person on a day-to-day basis. They just don't understand, because when they get fed up with racism, they can turn their TV off, or they can just go and talk to their family, or they can turn racism off. So for them, it's like, why do you guys keep bringing up the race card? Why do you keep bringing up racism? We keep bringing it up because it's always there for us. It's a part of daily experience. But
we don't ever get
action after action after action. That's something they just don't understand.
I got to get in on something you said because it actually pissed me off. Not at you, but who said it. When you said that someone identified Devin James as a coon, I got pissed. And the reason why is because I first would want to know who is this person and what are you doing to contribute to the black community your damn self. You know, you're so quick. You're so quick to call someone else a coon and Uncle Tom a sellout because they may want to work with white people to try to get something done on behalf of black people, but you yourself are sitting back drinking on a 40, smoking a blunt, calling somebody a coon on the internet.
Right.
So this person, you know, so that's a part of the problem that I see with black people. As soon as some black person does something positive and they start reaching out to build some coalitions with white people, you got these other black folks that start attacking them. You know, you don't know this person's motives. You don't know if that person is going to these white folks because they have the experience that they can then learn from to come back and help black folks. We don't know that. We're just so quick to turn around and call somebody a name because they're working with white people. I'll give you an example. I watched the show last night when I was at work. A young white reporter was interviewing Emmett Smith about the different businesses that Emmett Smith has. And Emmett Smith has a company called like E. Smith Real Estate. And this group helps people to accomplish, you know, goals of buying real estate and so on. And they showed a picture of Emmett Smith and his team. I saw one black person, one black woman. Emmett Smith's in the middle. He's got this one black lady, and then the rest of his team is white. So am I now to then say Emmett Smith is a sellout? Am I now to say Emmett Smith is a coon? You know, I mean, I'm sick. You know, I just sometimes our people make me sick because all we do is want to sit back and call people names without really doing anything yourself to be a part of the solution. So to me, people like that are just a part of the problem. You'll never be a part of the solution.
No, I agree wholeheartedly with that in the sense of we are way too quick to label people. And you see it even in the pictures that we have. There was a picture of two women put up. Both of them had what could be deemed as positive and negative attributes, but the one woman was dressed in business attire and the other woman was dressed a little more flashy. And we immediately jumped on the woman who wasn't dressed in business attire and started calling her a slut and a hoe and a whore and this, that, and the third. You know, I'm thinking to myself, maybe this woman's on vacation. Maybe she's chilling at the house with a man. There are any number of explanations that would. So I agree that we label people far too quickly. And the thing with the coon, Devin James the coon, like I said, I thought it was interesting because I had never heard of the guy. So it prompted me to want to go do research. But for a lot of people, they wouldn't make the jump to just go do the research. They just say, oh, well, Devin James is a coon because I saw him on TV. Or I saw a Facebook post that called him a coon. Me personally, coon is a very strong word. I'm not going to call you a coon just because you work with white people. And even in that, I'm not calling this man a coon now. What I am doing is questioning, and I know you weren't attacking me, so I don't want you to feel like I'm in defense mode or anything. That's not the case.
Right. I know, and that's what I'm saying because I wasn't. But it's that person who called him a name, and even though you have a right to question, Brother Patrick, what I'm saying is, you sometimes you just simply have to take that baby step. You know, and let's wait and see. You know, the whole point is okay. Let's just wait and see what he's going to do. But we're already got guns at this man's head, already shooting guns to kill this man because he has white folks working with him, and he's it's not fair. It's the same thing with Barack Obama. It's the same thing with anyone who's black in a position of leadership that so happens to work with white folks or who has white people as a part of their team. We automatically want to label them a sellout. And we did the same thing when Richard Gordon Hatcher was elected mayor in Gary because he wanted to work with white folks that was in power, they immediately started labeling him a sellout because he didn't immediately throw every single one of them out of office and start putting people with afros and picks in their heads in office. You know, sometimes you have to learn the position before you can turn around and then put people of your own race in the position. So how do we know that these people aren't just trying to learn as they go? In other words, let me figure out what they're doing. What is their strategy? How are these Caucasian people able to be so successful at what they're doing? And then as I learn that, okay, now I can look to see if there's some people who look like me that I can begin to put in those positions. So I'm just sick of people labeling and generalizing. It's just ignorant. It's ignorance is what it is.
That was where I was going to end it off was, well, I have my questions. I have my questions about his staff because from what I can see, they're all non-black with the exception of him. So I have my questions. I have my questions about where he came from, how he was selected, how they found him. Looking at his bio, it seems like most of his work has been on cancer, fighting cancer and doing PR firms and things like that for different other medical issues that are out there. And he has 85% of his agency load is with governments and nonprofits and things of that nature. So I have questions. All of that reveals that he might be highly qualified, but when you look around and you just look at what's going on, you have questions. But I don't feel like the responsible thing is to jump to labeling him a coon. I feel like the responsible thing is to wait and see, and that's where I was going to end, to see how things play out. And then if things play out in a way that we can actually see coonish behavior, then you label somebody a coon. But you don't label them a coon before you've seen what they've done. You got to see what they're going to do first. You got to see what actions he's going to take. Because from what I can see, him and his staff, they might be more pro-black than any of the all-black groups out there that haven't really done too much to benefit us so far. So, you have to wait and see.
That's true. That's true. And let me jump in here, right? And because we got to move on to our next subject because we're getting low on time. I'll end this with that. I'll end that particular subject with this. Before you call somebody a coon, because it happens to us a lot.
Yeah, I've been called a coon.
You see what I'm saying? Go on some of them other groups other than UI and say anything about, hey, well, that might not be a good idea because, all white people ain't bad. You coon! You see what I'm saying? A lot of people don't even know what the word coon means. They think that if I'm walking down the street and I'm on my way to lunch and I might be with one of my coworkers who happens to be European, because me and him's cool enough to walk down to Subway to get something to eat and go back to work, I got to be cooning. That's coonish behavior. You see what I'm saying? If a mic is stuck in my face and every other word to come out my mouth is not hunky this, hunky that, peckerwood this, cracker that, I'm a coon because I had the opportunity to call them all the things that they called us. That's not what we about, right? So look the word up, look the word's meaning up, look how it has been used throughout history since it first came out, and stop using it in its wrong context. And with that, we're going to move on to the next thing. We got about 7-8 minutes left. So this is what I want to do for today. Rapid fire. Patrick, you up first. 2 minutes. Talk to me about the black gene. Talk to me about the black violence gene. We was kicking it about that, last night, something like that. Tell me about the black gene.
Well, there is this gene that they believe through a limited amount of studies actually impacts violence and aggression and human behavior. And the gene is, I believe, called the MOA gene. I could be wrong on that, the actual lettering of it, but I believe it's the MOA gene. And basically, the gene, in its longer forms, it allows the body to deal with serotonin. It allows the body to break down serotonin in the brain. And serotonin is a chemical, a behavioral inhibitor, if you will. It's the chemical that flows throughout your brain that controls your behavior, much like any of the other chemical behavior genes, oxytocin and all those other genes do. But what they're saying is when the gene is shortened and comes in its 2 allele form, the brain doesn't have the ability to break down serotonin, and it causes black people or people who have this gene, it causes them to be more aggressive and more violent. Now, the study is that 2.7% of white people have this gene and 4.5% of black people have this gene. Actually, no, it's 0.7% of whites and 4.5% of blacks have this gene. Now, they called it the warrior gene at one point, but now they're just saying it's the violent gene. So, but when you start talking about these genes and genetics in general, one thing you have to remember is genetics can be impacted by social changes, by cultural changes, and by obviously biological changes. So if you take a child, and one thing that we have learned is that human beings have all the genes present in their body. It's just a matter of are they switched on or off, and are they functioning properly. The 2 allele version of this MOA warrior gene is the version that doesn't function properly. The longer version is the version that functions properly. So while we all have this gene, and black people is considered more often than not to be dysfunctional. But again, like I said, we have to ask ourselves, anytime you eating food, experiencing violence on a prolonged and reoccurring basis, cultural shifts that might have to deal with violence. Poverty is a big cultural shift that introduces violence. Any of these things all have an effect on our genetic code, and we're now learning that genetics aren't set. The genetics you're born with might not necessarily be the exact same genetics that you die with, and they might not necessarily be the exact same genetic code structure that you pass on to your kids, because what you pass on to your kids is what you have available at the time that you procreate. So we have to look at the fact that there are some recent historical things that have been done to black people that would more than likely explain why we're more violent, and those explanations do go down to a genetic level. And, you know, in 2 minutes, I'm going to have to wrap it up right now, but to be honest, to put it all up, it's bullshit.
Terry, 2 minutes.
Same issue. Same thing. All right. First of all, here's the first thing. Just picture an elephant, and the elephant dropped this whole pile of dung in a field. That's what this is. This is somebody who's come up with some way to label black folks as being more violent than any other people. That person in and of themselves is probably a member of the most violent and racist group of peoples that ever existed. Let's just look at what the output is. Forget the numbers, forget these so-called facts and figures that mean absolutely nothing. First of all, how do they know it's 0.7% of a white person's gene? How do you really know that it's just exactly 0.7? You know, and how do you know that it's exactly 4.7% in Terry Banks's brain that makes him go out and now he's going to start assassinating white people because he's violent? This is ignorance. And so you don't want to buy into ignorant ass numbers, statistics, and rhetoric. If you look at the person's actions in and of themselves, you look at what white people have done traditionally, in their ways that they've killed Indians, in their ways that they formed the Ku Klux Klan, in their ways that Adolf Hitler assassinated and burned up millions and millions of Jews. If you look at the fact that white people are running around here on a regular basis wanting to hang you from trees, and they were burning our bodies and cutting off the burnt body parts and giving them to their children and having their children actually participate in this nonsense and teaching them that we are come on, you know, you either have a sense in you to be a good person or you have a sense in you that wants to be a bad person. You're either going to want to side toward evil things, or you're going to want to side toward good things. If I focus only on being evil, then yes, I'm going to become a very violent person to deal with. However, conversely, if I focus on only trying to be positive and be about what's good, then no, I'm not a violent person, and I wouldn't allow anyone to label me as such. Now, having said that, if someone walks up to me and just for no reason spits on me or punches me in the face, okay, yeah, I got a right now to let that quote-unquote violent part of me come out and try to defend myself. But then would that mean I'm violent? Of course not. So I just ask for black folks to please be smart and stop buying into nonsense stuff that you're reading and believing this nonsense of saying we're the most violent people in America, when if you look at the article that's posted on UI's page that labels statistics about how many white people are violent and how many white people are in prisons and that kind of thing, it's not just us. This is a universal thing.
Right.
Yay! That was almost 2 minutes to the head. Almost 2 minutes over, but 2 minutes to the head. Okay. As we wind down, I'm going to hit y'all with some positivity because this is where we're trying to move, and this is the Jackson thing. So in honor of Jackson Ra, I'm going to hit y'all with some positivity. First things first, we got a new page up. And for those of you who have not visited urbanintellectuals.com, I advise you to, I implore you to, I suggest that you go and visit that page because we've changed our layout, and what has used to be kind of jumbled up and a lot of people had problems navigating it. It's more streamlined. It looks a whole lot better. Yeah, it's going to be a learning curve that's involved because there's still some things about it that I'm trying to figure out. But go to the page, join the movement, post there. We're getting away from Facebook. You know, I'm really expecting my lights to go out and my phone to cut off, you know, mysteriously, because I'm talking about another one of the evil empires. Facebook has got to go. We got to get away from Facebook and start using our own, something that we have created. That being said, second positive thing, if anybody wants to know something special or know about something special, Google search Justin Lynch. This is a young brother, I think he's 18 now, who at 16 years of age, 2 years ago, broke Michael Phelps' long-standing record in the, I think it was the 100-meter freestyle, which to those of y'all who say, okay, well, we break records all the time, it's not a big deal. We have never been known to be real avid swimmers, let's put it like that. Not because we couldn't, but because we were basically barred from municipal pools, so we had a very steep learning curve, and we were behind when it came to the vast majority of us learning how to swim. What is the statistic? 70% of us don't know how to swim, or if we do know how to swim, it better be near the edge of the pool or something like that. But this brother broke his records. There's also a sister girl, and I can't recall her name. I read it today, yesterday, something. She's 16, 17 years old. She broke Missy Franklin. And if you don't know swimming, just Google Missy Franklin, Google Justin Lynch, Google Michael Phelps, and you'll know what I'm talking about. She broke Missy Franklin's long-standing record in the 50-meter freestyle, or maybe 50-meter fly, one of the two. Anyway, she's one of us as well. And what people are saying is these two individuals, one male and one female, both black, might be the standard bearers for us when the next Olympics rolls around. What is that, 2020 it comes around, 2018, something like that. But when the next one rolls around, 2016, when the next one rolls around, they might be our standard bearers, which is something crazy because just like Tiger Woods took his, just like the Williams sisters took theirs. Let me tell you something special about the Williams sisters. Everybody that follows tennis and remember watching tennis back in the day, the men's final was always the marquee event. It was always center court. It was always the last thing that was played because that was where the money was. Bjorn Borg, Jimmy Connors, John McEnroe, some of the rest of them. When the Williams sisters started knocking heads off, all of a sudden, did nobody really care about, okay, well, the men won, they played, okay, who won? Federer? Okay, well, cool. But the money started following the sisters, just like they took that over. And just like in case people don't really know, want to research something, how many people know that hockey was started by black slaves in Canada? But that's a whole nother story. With that, I want to end the show. I want to end it by asking you all to go to ui.com/members, become a member of Urban Intellectuals, and get all of the perks of being a member of Urban Intellectuals. If you don't want to be a member and just want to donate to something that's about yourself, go to ui.com/donate and give to your heart's content. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye in honor of my guy Terry Banks, Patrick Irvine. Somebody else is on my line too, but I think they're just listening. Whoever that is, say hi and say bye.
Hey, what's going on? This is Professor Carl Tone Jones. I'm also a new member. I joined the UI membership core a few days ago, and I'm just enjoying the show, good brother.
Professor!
Come on, man. You've been here for at least a half an hour. I've been looking at this call duration, 20 minutes. You've been here for 20 minutes, and you just now saying something? Man, you could have got in. That's all right. Be here tomorrow.
All right,
and with that, see us on the page. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you don't like. Tell us what you think we can tighten up. And for those of you who missed most of the show or missed all of the show and want to point somebody else towards it, it'll be up on the web later on YouTube. And I don't know, we might try and do something with Ustream or, some of the other platforms that's out there. But in any event, from the Daily Show number 24, 9/22/2014, this is Jalal Tariq, and I'm out. Okay, y'all, we off.